Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Today. And we have just witnessed what has been a pretty good Australian, pretty eventful, also, you can say, Australian Grand Prix that took place. And as we know, the winner is Ferrari Charles Leclerc. What a time indeed for him. And, it is a big deal for Leclerc because not only did he end up getting a win, but perhaps more importantly, his biggest rival, uh, his biggest rival for the title, Max Verstappen, ended up getting a DNF, and that is big because this is the second time in practically three races that Verstappen has had to retire due to mechanical issues, and it's been a bit of a struggling start for him. If you're talking about the way his title defense has gotten off, not the ideal start at all. You do not want to be having two DNFs even if you won one of those races in between, which is in, of course, Saudi Arabia. But Max Verstappen, once again, failing to finish. Again, two out of three race finishes, or not two out of three non finishes. Hardly the best of places that you can find yourself because, as we saw last year, the momentum was consistently to and fro. But as things stand, you'd be hard pressed to actually look beyond Ferrari when it came to the way that this title race is going because, not only are they quick, they are also extremely reliable, which is something that the Red Bulls cannot possibly say. They do have the pace, yes, but they do not have the reliability, and it's a bad start to the new era of Red Bull powertrains because, as we know, they are taking Honda engines these years, but rebranding them as Red Bull powertrains engines or Red Bull made engines. And every race pretty much we've seen those engines, whether it be in the Red Bulls, whether it be in the Alpha Tauris, they have suffered some degree of reliability issues, and that's probably not the best of things for them because, again, they are the defending world champions. They finished second in the constructors last year, but if they don't sort out these reliability issues, it doesn't matter how fast the car is, simply because it means that they absolutely will not be finishing the race. So bad times for them, but Ferrari won't really care. In fact, I would argue that even Ferrari had a very, very mixed race. Charles Leclerc may have won, but Carlos Sainz, his weekend to forget, carried on. On Saturday, he was in qualifying. He actually ended up suffering some misfortune and then only managed to start on P9. Today, he spun out into the gravel trap, car didn't move, first DNF of the race, and there were three major DNFs actually, because the other two was one was Verstappen, and the other was, of course, Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. Obviously, we're talking about nightmare weekends. We have to look at the Astons as well, but for now, let's focus on the people who finished in the top three. So you have, of course, Charles Leclerc, who finished. He won the race. Behind him in second place is Red Bull Sergio Perez. So he's actually had a pretty decent start in that regard as well, because I think in 2021 we could see that Perez was not really up to speed with the Red Bull. This time around, however, he got a pole position in Saudi Arabia. He's finished in second place here, albeit way, 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 behind the pace. He was not on Leclerc's pace at all. So it was a bit of a shame in that regard. But I don't think Ferrari will be complaining too much. And perhaps the most notable thing outside of maybe the top two is the fact that George Russell finished third in Mercedes. That's not only George Russell, that's his second podium finish overall because we unfortunately have to count the fast that was last season's Belgian Grand Prix, where he did finish on the podium. But this is his first podium finish for Mercedes since he's joined the team. Obviously, he joined in the middle of the beginning of the season, and it was a very well ran race on his part. Of course, he did have a little bit of luck in the sense that he, managed to pit at a time when there was a safety car. He used that, got out, lost less time, hung on to third place. At one point, it did seem like he was in trouble of dropping out because Perez overtook him into third, and they didn't seem like they had the pace to fight back. But Verstappen's retirement pushes Perez up to second, and George Russell into third. So again, massive, massive thing for him. It's his first actual proper podium finish where he's actually gone the length of the race. Big thing for him, and also an improved performance overall from Mercedes because Lewis Hamilton, his teammate, finished fourth. So obviously, fourth place finish for Mercedes, third and fourth. It's pretty much what they would have been happy with, considering how off the pace they were in the first two races. The second race, in particular, Saudi Arabia, they did not look good in the slightest. Now, let me try taking a few of the comments. Sanket Joshi says, "Good to see McLaren's back in the top 10." Yeah, I agree with you because McLaren in 2020 and 21 made a lot of strides, but they have struggled a lot in the early parts of the season simply due to the fact that their cars, the brakes overheating was a major problem. So they had to kind of ease off the throttle. They had to kind of, take it easy on the brakes as well. And they were losing a lot of positions. In Australia, however, as I had noted, if you'd seen my video yesterday, that there's only four major braking zones. So it was easier for them to actually, kind of go a little hard on the brakes. Their car was functioning better. Maybe also the fact that the temperatures in Australia are not quite as high as it was in Bahrain as well as Saudi Arabia. That definitely helped them out in that regard. So obviously, it is good. I agree to see McLaren back in the top 10. I think the Aussie fans would be happy to see their man, Daniel Ricciardo, also up there in the points. Uh, so you have Kunal K saying Charles with like four fire emojis. I have to agree. Pretty much a flawless race by the Monegasque, and Ferrari would be very happy with how he's been this season because with Leclerc, the assumption always has been that he is indeed a world champion in the waiting, and that he's just needed the right car. When he came to Ferrari 2019, the team was in a bit of turmoil. There was infighting, and the car was eventually, of course, as we know, that engine power unit was eventually ruled to be illegal. So 2020 was a season of struggle. 2021, you saw them make plenty of strides. The team finished third in the Constructors' Championship. 2022, they have absolutely nailed it as far as the regulations go, but also their power unit is really, really good. And guys, I believe I am being joined by a guest. So, Nikhil, can you hear me? Well, okay, a bit of technical issues, I guess. And Sanket Joshi says very dull race for top six. I agree, but you have to also remember, historically speaking, Albert Park has never provided like trauma when it came to races because the track was always notoriously hard to overtake in. So, it's never been an easy one in that regard to kind of it's never been a good place to race per se, but I think today was a bit of an improvement because we did see a lot of uh, overtakes. Obviously, the number of DRS zones there also increased. That helps. But yeah, I agree that it could have been a better race in terms of the raceability. But I think Verstappen's retirement also had something to do with that because Leclerc was pretty much unchallenged for the most part of the race. I think even he'd agree this is one track where one race which I think is the easiest race he's had so far this season. Um, Piyush Plaman says, great drive by Albon to score a point in Williams. Yeah, you know what? I actually agree with you in that regard because, well, that Williams so far, last season they did manage a few points finishes here or there. There was an expectation that they might be able to kick on this season. That hasn't really happened. The car has comfortably looked, it's looked like the eighth or ninth fastest car on occasion. So Albon actually did very well. Of course, there were also, strategic pieces. It's a case of the cards falling the way they did, and they did fall very well for them when they were in seventh or so. You have to remember that there were a few safety cars, the teams took advantage. Williams was one of them. Well done in terms of the strategy in that regard, because you can say whatever, but at the end of the day, it is important. It's one thing to get the advantage; it's quite another to take advantage of it. So well done indeed to the Williams team. Hopefully, it's the first points finishes for many from Albon, who, as we know, he has had a bit of a struggle in terms of his F1 career. Came in as a promising rookie, was absolutely outpaced by Max Verstappen when he actually did get called up to Red Bull. Uh, oh, and I think we finally have our guests here, do we? You'll have to turn on your camera, I think. Oh my goodness.
Can you?
Yeah, it's cutting a bit now.
I
Now
have
I can hear you.
turned on my camera.
Yeah, it was taking a bit of time for it to turn on.
I
Now it's
have
on.
turned on my
Yes.
camera, just that I can't see myself. I don't know if you could see me or not.
I can now, but the audio is lagging very
Yeah, now
badly.
I can see myself. So I'm actually at a ground. I'm wearing my Force India cap, if you can see, though I'm playing a cricket match right now. And this Force India cap I got courtesy traveling to Circuit de Catalunya.
Oh, in
Many,
Barcelona.
uh,
There's a lot of
can you
interruptions
hear
with the
me now?
stream, it
Is
would
this
seem.
better?
Yeah, much better. Nikhil, you're not audible. There's a lot of audio lag. Not audible. Not audible.
Yeah. Okay, I think so. The delay is about close to 12 to 15 seconds. So I don't think we'll be able to have a conversation, Shane.
Yeah.
Just looking at the race, I mean, few things that really stand out, and I'm sure you must have analyzed. So I'll just rant a little. One thing that really stands out is that
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, guys. There do seem to be some lag issues that you guys are pointing out. It's because we're joining you remotely. If we were in the studio, this probably would not have been that much of an issue. So, unfortunately, this is just one of those problems which turns up with, joining live. So, we're really sorry about that. I would have also loved to hear what Nikhil had to say, but I don't see anything being audible, unfortunately. Yes, Midhan Sharma, yes, the audio has indeed gone. Unfortunately, there seem to be some issues in that regard. I have no idea how we could fix this. I wish we could. Okay, so Nicholas is gone out for now, so unfortunately, I hope he does join us again. But if you guys do have, let me just take some more comments. Midhan Sharma says, please give your views on Leclerc. Man, the guy is racing on another level right now. And I think this is something that everyone knew that he had in him. Everyone knew that, yeah, Charles Leclerc is potentially a world champion in the waiting. In fact, it would have been really interesting if you're looking at the current podium. It would have been really interesting if you had, Verstappen there as well, because you'd have had three very young drivers. You had Leclerc, Verstappen, and Russell, three people who many expect to be actually dominating F1's next generation. But we have Leclerc there, we have George Russell, who incidentally are actually great friends off track. And it's always great to see there's a lot of youth there, and also, of course, in Sergio Perez, a wily veteran who's very, very good at this whole racecraft business. And he's done very well today, full credit. But of course, if we're talking about Leclerc, I mean, he was flawless all weekend. Even yesterday, when towards the end of qualifying in Q3, he just put in the fastest lap with little to no effort. And yeah, you can say that because also he has one of the two fastest cars at the grid. But it's one thing having the fastest car, and it's quite the other driving it to its limit. Leclerc this season has looked a different racer in Ferrari. Many in fact are going out there to dub him Leclerc 2.0. The man himself is actually refuting those claims. He's saying that I'm always the same, and I don't think there's been much change in that regard. But the only difference is that he's finally now has a machine that he could actually be winning races. And Medhan Sharma says, "Do you think Hamilton has dropped his form?" I mean, he finished fourth today, and I don't think he's really looked any different than he did last season. The only major difference in 2021 and 2022 is that the car has absolutely not been up to standard. The car at the moment is where it is. It's a third place at best car, third place in the sense in the team constructors championship, not the drivers championship. It is the third fastest car on the field, and that is pretty much reflective in the way that they're performing. I don't think his form has dropped. He's looked as good as he could possibly in that car. It's just that today Russell finished slightly ahead of him. Then so I don't think it's down to form. It's just a case of Russell finishing ahead because things fell in place for him a little better. Strategies were better there. Harshit Jain is asking, is there any Indian in the race? Well, no. There is no Indian in Formula One currently, unfortunately. Hopefully, we might have one in the near future. Oh, Nikhil is back with us. Can you hear me?
Hi, can you
All I
hear
can hear are
me? Is this
birds.
better? Is this better?
It is somewhat better, but there is still some audio lag somehow because you're saying one thing and yeah,
You
you're
can't
not
hear.
audible. It's coming with a major lag, major lag.
No, so the lag I think is slightly better now. So you'd have to pause for about a good 10 seconds and then be able to hear me. I think it's better than last time around. I'm actually
Yeah.
well, so that's what I'm saying. So the lag you'll have to wait till I give me like once I finish, wait for 10 seconds, and then I can hear you, and then vice versa. As long as you can hear me clearly, even though there would be a bit of a lag. Medan Sharma is asking, do you think Hamilton has dropped his form? I don't know, Shane, if you've already answered that. I don't know whether he's dropped his form, but clearly, I think the car's not up to pace, and we knew that with such major changes ahead of this season. You knew that the car wasn't up to pace. But I think this weekend may have been slightly better for the Mercedes. They'll take some heart with this sort of a performance. As I said, they may have finished as the most points by any constructor this race, considering third and fourth spot. And Ferrari didn't have the second car finish, and Red Bull didn't have the second car finish. So they'll take some heart here. But Russell finishing ahead of Hamilton, that will be interesting. Again, I think Hamilton's bad luck is following him from last season. This time too, I think that safety car period cost him that podium. Otherwise, he would have been on that podium. But I don't think he's dropped his form. What I can remember from the beginning of the season, he actually said that he's more motivated for this season. Unless, of course, that what is the earring ban, and whether he had comply with that for this particular race, I don't know whether that's had any role to play in this race.
Yeah, so I think I'd answered the question, and you pretty much concurred with me. Is that yeah, he's done okay considering the way the car is, but I don't think they can do much better. Even Russell managing to finish ahead of him came down as much to circumstances as the, safety car when he got to pit, everything like that. And so it definitely was just a case of the cards falling a little better for George. Happy for him, first podium for Mercedes, considering that the car's probably not quite there yet. Of course, bit of luck needed, two DNFs, but you take with them when you get them. And Medhansh has another question. He's saying, please say on the Verstappen incident. Well, the Verstappen incident is an interesting one because it's yet another case of a technical problem costing Verstappen a finish. Never mind a points finish or a podium finish. He could have been finishing second. He could have been, uh, getting more points. But as things stand, he's sixth in the drivers' championship. Not where he would want to be, considering how much hard it took him to actually win that title. And it's not an ideal thing for him at all, but it was not something he could control. He was well on pace for a second place finish. It just so happened that the car gave out, but that is a major problem for Red Bull because they have had these failures before. I mean, it's happened in Bahrain. Both cars DNF. Gasly did not finish. It happened even in Saudi Arabia before the race. Yuki Tsunoda had to retire. So there have been a lot of problems, and that's something that they're going to need to look into because the car is fast, but it is not reliable. And this is something that ironically has followed Adrian Newey around. Even during his time in McLaren, there were times he produced fast cars, but which were not the most reliable. But of course, that's not something that he can control. That is something that the people in charge of the engine side of things will have to be taken care of. Otherwise, yeah, Red Bull will definitely be disappointed with the fact that they've had two DNFs like that for Verstappen. And Verstappen certainly wasn't happy on team radio, not in the least. He's just wondering what is happening, guys. So I can feel for him. It's not the ideal thing, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles for him, unfortunately. Okay, I think Nikhil's camera and this thing is kind of frozen up. So, do we have any more questions? Let me just see if I can take more questions. There's a lot of lag with both audio and video happening as we speak. So, okay, so we have Aditya Shukla saying, do you think Leclerc could be faster than Sainz this season or Sainz going to catch up? Well, Sainz did look very much on pace yesterday, but so far you would have to say that Leclerc has had his number. And, I don't know. I think, for Sainz's sake, he should be looking to catch up because this is a team and this is a car where he could potentially be winning at least a world title, if not more. But right now Leclerc is looking like the pacier driver, and that's bad news for Carlos Sainz and his fans because even if he doesn't want to, he would have to be playing the role of the sidekick or the Bottas to Hamilton to Leclerc's Hamilton, because if he's not going to be up to pace, if he's not going to be matching or even beating Leclerc, there's no reason that the team are going to be like, yeah, you know what, race. No, they're going to want to win the world title. And right now, Leclerc is absolutely their best bet by a long margin. It's not even close. So
Yeah, I
Sainz
think
needs to be catching up.
it's a case of both Hamilton, Verstappen, the ones fighting for the title. Their bad luck continuing this season as well, and I think alongside both Verstappen and Hamilton, my bad luck also seems to continue. I'm actually out playing a cricket game, I'm actually out playing a cricket game. Our team, which is a mixture of
Yeah.
AajTak and SportsTak and Sports Today, we're all playing a cricket game right now. And so I guess maybe it's the heat here, which is
Yeah, the Heat is not letting him catch any breaks whatsoever at all. The network has definitely gone away once again, much like Verstappen's chances of taking a big lead in the F1 race. I kid Verstappen fans. I like the guy, even though I'm a Hamilton fan. I will admit to that. But yeah, okay. So who's do we have more questions? Medhan Sharma, who's been very active. I love this kind of interaction on the set. He's saying missing Prime Schumacher. Ooh, very interesting one. I mean, as like many others in my generation, I first when I started watching F1, Schumacher was the man. I don't think they're missing him as such. I think it's just a case of right now. I think what the sport needs more than a Prime Schumacher is that more teams get competitive quick, because right now Ferrari are very much running away with things. But I mean, who doesn't miss Prime Schumacher, right? Schumacher was a once in a lifetime potentially the greatest of all time. For me, he still remains my goat. Again, even though I say this is a big Hamilton fan, but for me, Schumacher was the greatest, the best. But you know how it works with sport. It's a bit of a cycle. The best of us have to retire one day. And I think I'll just say that I was lucky that I grew up in an era where Schumacher was very much a top champion, and where he was, a racer who could dominate teams on other races like few others. So yeah, I do miss Shumi, but I think I'm happy with the way the sport is right now. The new regulations have actually done a lot to make raceability better. You can see more and more people actually being able to overtake easily, and yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with where the sport is right now. So Aditya Shukla has another question. He says McLaren versus Alpine for next races. I mean, that's an interesting one because both these teams actually did. You know, they both did actually. How would I put this? They were there was a lot of improvement for both teams because you saw the Alpines yesterday. Alonso at one point was actually on course to take a front row finish in qualifying, so they did very well in that regard. Yeah, and McLaren's again, as I said, they showed a lot of pace this time around. So I think that might just be the key midfield battle to keep an eye on because Mercedes, even though they are the third fastest team right now, and they could, but they do believe that if they can unlock, there is performance there to be unlocked. It's just a case of getting to the root of things, and once they do that, I think they do expect that they would be up in the hunt for championships and for championship wins potentially, and even race wins. So let's see. But I do think that if you're talking about the midfield, McLaren versus Alpine would be one of those battles to watch out for. The Renault power unit has taken a bit of a step up. McLaren have had their problems. So yeah, I do think that's a good shout, Aditya. Absolutely do expect that. Abel Abraham has a comment. Why Sports Today doesn't make any videos on Women's Junior Hockey World Cup and FIH Pro League? Today, India is playing the Dutch in the semi-final. You know what, Abel? That's a very good point. Thank you for that. We will definitely, do something in that regard as soon as we can. I promise you. As you can see right now, I am at home. I'm not yet in office. I'm not yet in the studio, but do keep an eye out for that because something in that regard will definitely be coming. I promise you, we will be covering everything. We're not just, as I say, cricket fans. We're not just F1 fans, not just football fans. We're all sports fans here, and we will do our best to cover whatever it is possible, and whatever it is that is, that our bandwidth on both in terms of time and resources allows us to do. So yeah, I promise you that we will be, have to be that we will be covering that very soon. Do stay tuned and do stay tuned for more content because today is a big day. It's Super Sunday for sports fans, and there's going to be more coming. So Medhan Sharma, this will be the last comment I take before we wind this little stream up. He says, "I'd rather be fixing a fast car than trying to make a reliable slow car fast. We have things in the pipeline which I think will help." I'm not sure who the we is you're referring to here, so do clarify which team do you support. Ferrari were untouchable today. I absolutely agree. Ferrari were untouchable, and they will be kicking themselves that Sainz ended up getting a DNF, because uh, if they didn't get that DNF, they would have absolutely increased their lead in the constructors' championship. Because, as we said, Verstappen didn't finish. But yeah, you're right. Ferrari were untouchable, and that car is looking absolutely amazing. It's looking like a breeze of a car to drive in that regard. Very reliable. They have the total package, and it doesn't seem like anyone is catching them anytime soon. Abel Abraham says, "Thank you, sir. Please don't thank me. Trust me. We enjoy doing these things, and we love hearing you guys out, because sometimes it is possible that we might just be missing out on something, or we like hearing your suggestions." Aditya Shukla, last question: is it worth spending money to watch F1 going to the race arena? Yeah, absolutely. If you have the resources to ever go check out an F1 race, I would highly recommend you do it. It's a different experience altogether when you're there than it is on TV. Always is. I would always recommend that if you are interested in any kind of sport, you definitely should go and watch it live. On that note, I do thank you guys all very much for your presence. It's highly appreciated. I loved taking your questions. Audio issues aside, this was as good a live stream as that we could have hoped to put up for you guys right now. Immediately after the race, we were here. Very few else were. Remember that when you have check out any other discussions on this sport, any other sport. Remember, the sports today are always going to be there for you guys. So thank you very much. Very interesting race, and lots of interesting things. We might just be doing more reactions on this in the coming days, so do watch out for that. And do definitely, if you aren't already, do like the video, do comment once it's posted in the video section. Do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for joining us, and this is it from me for now. This is Shane Dias from Sports Today signing off. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye bye.